It's Tuesday night, so it's another episode of my POA podcast, Black Hand and Beyond. I'm your host, Kent Rourke. We have a very special guest tonight, Katie Meyer. Say hello, Katie.
Hello.
Hello. So, second time in 3 weeks. I feel lucky to have you back on here. So, like we were talking off air, I had an episode planned and it didn't work out. So, I quick thought of something and I said, I'm going to pick my 3 favorite POAs from the past, not current POAs, and I'm going to have somebody pick 3 of their favorites. So, I decided to call you or text you and see if you would do it, and you were game. So who's who's your 3 favorites? I mean, I know there's bunches of them. You could have picked 20 or 30, but just for tonight's episode.
Well, when you texted me, I saw 3 favorites, and I was like, wow, this is pretty easy, First Impulse, No Getting Over Me, Laced in Impulse. I got them all right there. And then I kept reading, and you said not related to me.
Yeah, not
so then
related. Yeah,
then I had to pull out the thinking cap. But so I chose... For a stallion, I chose RPR's Impulsive Superman. And a mare, I chose Slow Motion, and gelding, the Chocolate Doctor.
Okay. RPR's Impulsive Superman, Flow Motion, and the Chocolate Doctor. That's another thing. I said you don't have to, but it'd be kind of cool if you pick a mare, stallion, and gelding. I said that's kind of what I'm going to do. So I picked East Acres Double Tough for a stallion, Black Swan S for the mare, and Series Sparkle Champagne for the gelding. And like I was telling you off there too, one of the reasons I didn't pick any modern ones is because I am a carded judge and I may be judging some of these. So I didn't want people to say, I picked favorites on the podcast. So believe me, there is a bunch of them I love nowadays too. But then also with you on here as a youth, I kind of picked 3 from my youth. So I never did see Double Tough. He passed away in '82, so I didn't get to see him in person, but I did a lot of history on him, and then a lot of our stuff did trace back to him. And of course, then Black Swan S was in my state. Danielle Kruger rode her, and then Series Sparkle Champagne just was such a beautiful looking POA and confirmation wise, and then he could do everything. So that's why I picked those 3. Okay, so up on the screen, let's see, get my picture off there. So I don't know if anybody knows who that baby is. I know Kim Haas in Michigan will know who that is, and a few other people. But that's the Chocolate Doctor, is a wee little one. He's got those socks, and of course he's not quite as dark there in that picture, but you still can tell his face mark. And there's a good picture of his mama. She's a Dox mare, and she's related to your grandma and grandpa's stallion, First Impulse, but it's like you said, it's breeding and it's nothing that you showed or anything, So
no.
It'd be kind of rough.
It's a ways back.
It's a ways back. Yeah. If I would have told you don't pick anything with First Impulse or Kiddo Tough or Lexus or something, it would have been rough. So so that's a cool picture of him. And of course, we just seen him a couple weeks ago on here. See, there he is as a yearling.
I was thinking about, a gelding, and I was like, wow. I really want to pick, the Chocolate Doctor, but I was like, everybody knows him, everybody loves him. And then I was like, there's a reason they call him Perfect Peter, and he's just in a league of his own, and you can't just not choose him for this.
Right. Look at his top line, even as a yearling there. It's pretty good. I mean, a yearling shouldn't have a perfect top line because they're going to grow, but his was pretty close. And I say, she was a guest a couple weeks back, and we talked about him, so.
Yeah, so she's gone grand as a gelding 3 times and reserve 1.
Okay.
So he can definitely halt her for sure.
Right, and then he can do other things too. She's won a lot of other stuff with him, especially in the adult, classes and the 45 and over. And evidently he can pack little kids around too. And he's just getting started. He's not that old yet. So
no, he's only 10, and he won the Leonard Lewis with Caroline Fredenberg.
Okay.
I think he was 4 that year. I remember showing against her. And so, he can do it on the youth side with little kids, old kids, and obviously with Kim.
Right. Kim's got the nicest outfits. I don't wear clothes like that, but I'm jealous. Them are cool. She always has cool shirts. So, well, your stuff about the history. That's why you're a guest on here again twice in 3 weeks. Because you impressed me with what you know about POAs.
So he's the same age as my mare, Lacey.
Okay.
So I got to watch he was a yearling then the first year that I showed POA. So I've also watched, him grow up as a gelding and watched Kim take him from just a super, super nice yearling to, an amazing all around, which is very impressive for her to have accomplished. And
yeah, I first noticed him in halter, of course, because I watch halter for sure, and sometimes I can't stay for the whole show, but I always try to make halter, and he caught my attention. Of course, he's so flashy too. And then now lately, sometimes when I can stay, or now with the streaming too, the live streaming, I watch him that way, and I'm like, wow, he can move. He sure could be an all-around gelding if she chooses to. Yeah, well, she's got a couple little ones too, so he may be. Look at all those trophies in that picture. They're stacked. It looks like a pyramid of trophies over there.
Yeah, so she told me 46 times he's been a Congress champion, and he's never jumped, he's never gamed, so he's had such a smaller amount of time, amount of classes to win in a show, which is impressive to kind of hit that 46, that number there, and an 11-time high point winner. Obviously, that would be in the adult.
Right.
And he's won some stakes classes, so he's been able to get it done everywhere, which is part of why I picked him. And
he's got a good family, too. His full siblings have done well. And he's actually related to the mare you picked. Flow Motion and him are related through the same Doc's mare. I mean, they're not brother and sister, but they're related, and it goes back to that First Impulse daughter. So
so I think that's been impressive for me to kind of get to see him do that, and obviously he can halter, he can do the performance classes, he can pack around little kids, and you see Kim show up to a show with him and you just go, oh crap, you might as well just throw the towel in because he's so good.
Right. And, well, you're going to have to work. You're going to have to pack a lunch, as they used to say. Your grandparents would say that. You're going to have to try your hardest because she's going to have him looking good and ready to show too under saddle. That's a cool picture of him there. He's so flashy and just a good representative of the breed. So that's cool that he's the same age. I forgot he was the same age as your mare, but that makes sense. So you watched him grow up. Yeah, and then, I got to talk to Kim a little bit about him, and she talks about, his personality and his willingness to please and how much he kind of loves the show pen. And you get to see that, in a lot of the good ones, I think, which is another reason I chose him, was that personality, and you can see that shine through. When they look through, there it's a stage photo looking through the halter, but when they look through the bridle, I say, let's see if we get a picture. There he's doing his job. He's in trail, and he's got his head down and his ears are not all the way forward because he's thinking. He's thinking, what am I doing here? So, people are agreeing with you that he was a good choice. We got to say hi to Dean Damon. He's on here. Tracy Sweet Keen said hello. Susie Schultz Huff, who I grew up with in Minnesota. Your mom would know her for sure. And you know her probably because her daughter showed for a while about 10 years ago. Then she went into dance. She's a great dancer now. And then let's see. Tracy said good choice. Jackie Guthrie said hi to you and me both. My wife says hi everyone or hey everyone. So. Oh, I got to say real quick, tonight's show is sponsored by Jackson's of Enid. I got to get that in there. And here's our little picture. There's our decal. So, all right, let's go back to pictures. So, anything you want to add, Katie, about the Chocolate Doctor?
Oh, man. I mean, he speaks for himself. There's not a whole lot, I guess, what else to see. Let's see what else Kim said. Oh, she did make me laugh because she talked about how he likes to play on the lunge line.
Okay.
And my own mare likes to run kind of wild. And so it kind of makes me laugh that even he still, got to run a little wild. But I think that's so cool.
Did you tell Kim that you were contacting her you're a correspondent for Black Hand and Beyond? You should have told her that. So I'll get you a little badge. I'll get you a badge and a lanyard that says correspondent. So. Mm-hmm. All right, so there he is again as a baby. All right, let's move on to Flow Motion. It's not going to be a real long show tonight, but it'll be pretty long, so I hope you guys popped the popcorn already. So this one, a lot more about her than I do. I even called her a gelding at one time. I wasn't around POAs as much in the teens, in the 2000, like 10 to 18 or 19. I got out of POAs about 8 or 9, and then, I started following again but I made most of the congresses in Tulsa. I've only missed a few of those. So.
Yeah. So this mare, like, she's just, wow. Like, that's another thing you just have to think. Number one, again, she's beautiful to look at. She always has been. And, obviously, breeding wise, she's got docks on both sides, which is kind of a cool little, obviously those are all very nice horses. And
right. And she has a sudden impulse on both sides through two different ways, through your grandparents' POA, first impulse, and then her grandsire is the sudden impulse. So, you knew that.
So, yeah, obviously, so the breeding there, and then for me, like, very few POAs, in my opinion, can do Western Pleasure and Trail and Hunter Under Saddle and then go run barrels and jump, and do all of those things so well at such a high level and be competitive enough to win those. And this is a mare that can do it all.
You kind of pick some throwbacks, I call them, because the ones I picked, Double Tough, I picked more for his looks and what he did for the breed. But the other two were like that. Black Swan S, Halter all the way to, she was a great gamer. And then Sparky, they call him Series Sparkles Champagne. Again, a grand champion halter horse. And then he was fast, and he did everything else in between. So, and looked good doing it. You like socks. I know Millsap's got socks. You're used to socks now. So two of them that you picked are chromed up.
Yeah, but I know she was second this year in the senior Hunter Under Saddle, and she won it last year, so she can win it on the rail. Together, Sophie, the girl who has her now, and Flo, they've won 31 Congress titles, which is just so impressive, and it's in every class you could think of.
Right.
And
that's made the sire. Doc Sudden Impact, that made him up there on the list. Without her, he would have a few, but nothing compared to what she's done. So
and so she's been kind of a fun one to watch and to grow. And she was out kind of in the Oregon area and started off a really successful career out there. And I think for me, what I picked out is, I think I'm a mare person. I always have been. And they talk about, like, she has such a big personality, but she has the biggest try, which is, I think, such a mare trait. And you can see that out there. And Sophie and her are just absolute best friends. And it's really cool to see that show through, when they ride.
Right.
You can see the partnership, and you can see how hard that mare works for her, which is,
again, look at that picture where she's got her ears straight forward.
There. She's a great mover. She does pretty decent in the halter classes, but then, she shines out there in the performance arena for sure.
Right. She's a little more modern build.
And
she's a little more.
Actually, ironically enough, this year, somebody asked me if I could choose any horse to take home, would I still choose my own? And I was like, well, yeah, absolutely. And then they asked me if I could choose one other, there. And I was like, well, it'd probably end up being Flo. She's always just really impressed me. And
right. And you're a mare person, so.
And I'm a mare person, absolutely. So maybe I'm a little biased, but.
Well, that's all right. She is a gorgeous mare too. And again, she can do everything. So.
And she's not a big mare, and she goes out there and just kicks butt in the Hunter Under Saddle, and she's very talented at the jumping. They take her to like eventing type shows. I know that there was a picture maybe.
Yeah, we're getting back to that right there.
Which is so impressive too. I mean, what a good representation of the breed outside of POA.
Right. Right. So where is she at now? What state is she at?
Yeah, she's in Minnesota with the Bunn family.
The Bunn family has her. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. So she was out. Oh Lord, where did it go? So the Athens broke her out as a 2-year-old, and then she went out to Oregon and began her all-around career, and then the Bunns bought her and have had her for 6-7 years now. So
Okay. All right. That's cool. That's where I grew up in Minnesota, you know. So one of the mare I picked was in Minnesota. That's ironic. So, and she didn't start in Minnesota. She started out in South Dakota as a baby. So, and then this one doesn't carry the Doc's prefix, but she actually was bred by Doc Nemers. Yeah, because he sold the mare in foal. He had so many good mares, he would do that. People would scratch their head, why is he getting rid of that mare? Well, he had some more fillies coming up. So a lot of people perpetually tips that way. He's a Doc's, and of course then a lot of the great Doc's too. But okay. That's a pretty nice profile picture over there too. So again, all that flash and chrome. So
yeah, she definitely grabbed your attention in the show pen, which is one of the reasons I chose the 3 I did, was kind of their show presence. And she definitely has that.
They all have presence, that's for sure. Yeah, I can tell what you like just by what you've shown from your family and now what you're picking on here. So. Okay, we have to go find, we're looking at all kinds of stuff here. We got to go find Manny, Superman.
Yeah, so I chose Manny as my stud. Obviously, there's studs out there who are huge producers, and Manny's had great babies, but he has such a cool story to him and such a great performance horse out in the pen, which was why I chose him.
Right.
And yeah, so he was a choice that I really liked, and yeah, so obviously Jess Jurish owns him, but then Jenna Destin has broke him out.
Yep.
And this is really cool because I didn't really understand this whole story, but so when Manny was 3, you know, he's a 3-year-old stud. Jenna was pregnant with her daughter Ricky, and 3 weeks before when the McLaren was at the Riker. 3 weeks before she started riding him again because she was on, you know, maternity leave.
Okay.
She had just had Ricky. So they went to the Riker when Ricky was 3 weeks old, and he unanimously won under all 4 judges in the McLaren as a 3-year-old stallion with all those weeks off, which is so impressive to me. You know, as a stud, as a 3-year-old stud, to then go out there and perform like that. And now this year, Ricky is 10, and she showed Manny for the first time down at Congress and had a lot of success.
That's cool. Yeah.
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 So not many stallions can do that in the show pen.
Right. And this close-up picture shows the presence you kind of are talking about. You picked presence in all 3 years. Look at this picture, his eye and the ears forward, and just the intelligence looking through the bridle. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was then shown by numerous youth, including Spencer Orr showed him, and they won a lot. I think it says 7 here, Congress titles, and Kendra Vroman showed him through a impressive, you know, jumping and games and the whole all-around deal there. And Jess has been showing walk trot on him. So it's very impressive to see him, you know, as a stallion go out there and be able to do that.
And win with a bunch of different people. Yeah, different age people. With
youth. And so that's really cool. And Jenna said this about him, that she didn't have jumps at home, and Kendra had never jumped before, but they wanted to start jumping him, so they kind of did the makeshift jumps, and then he went to Congress that year and just started winning the jumping classes. And
that's pretty cool, isn't it?
And you don't find that in many horses, and that was kind of a thing in all 3 horses really too, was just an unbelievable amount of try and willingness that you see throughout all 3. And that's crazy to me, a young stallion just being able to go out there and win jumping classes like that with such little practice. And
right. And he actually is getting used. You know, sometimes there's stallions that really are not stallions. They kept them intact, but they don't breed them much. They just show them. And because old horsemen thought that gave them an edge. Nowadays, it really doesn't. You know, it's but this horse actually, as you see the pictures, you know, and he's getting a lot of wins as a sire now. So, and then his son, I've Got Superpowers, is already sired winners. So, and he's going to have other sons too, I believe. So here's 3 of his get right there in that picture. So,
Yeah.
yeah. That's from what, 2020, I think. So that was a
Yeah,
while
it looks
ago
like that.
already. Yeah, you have younger eyes than me. You can see that.
Yeah,
So.
and on that one, I know like the horse on the right, that's Man of Steel, and he won the Junior Western Pleasure with one kid, and then turned around the next year and won it with another one. So he's siring youth ponies as well, which is impressive.
Right, it is.
But yeah, I think, and yeah, I just thought his story is so cool that, you know, now Jenna's daughter Vicky is 10 years old and being able to go out there and show him.
Yeah.
And
I've watched them show.
Success.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I seen them show in Iowa, and then I seen them, of course, at the Congress.
And yeah, I mean, this year in Iowa, right, that May show, he usually doesn't get out quite that early. And a 10-year-old was able to show him the second week of May. So
right.
Such a good personality of a horse.
Yeah, and he rode. She showed him, and Jess showed him that weekend too, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it was good to see him. You know, kind of switch gears with an adult, and then with a kid too. So.
And I know I talked to them, and they said he didn't show in 2013, but otherwise at Congress. But otherwise, from 2012 to 2024, he has won at least one class at Congress. So
he's won a lot. His sire has got a lot of wins because of him now. Two-eyed rawhide, TMD's two-eyed rawhide. So did you see the post I made with the 10 generations of sires?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, and he's second on that list, you know, as far as, or he would be actually 9th, I guess, because his son would be the 10th generation. I've got superpowers, and then him, and then it just keeps going. And I have pictures of all of them except Double Tough sire. No one except the App Club probably has a picture of him. And his name was Little Pueblo, but his son Double Tough was hard shipped and won a bunch. And then it just goes down. There was some leopards in the group. There was a few leopards, including, you know, this guy. And then there was a couple spots, including his son, and then Kiddo Tough. So my family raised him, and he's the great grandsire of this one or something like that. So somewhere grandsire, not grandsire. I think he's the great. So because Two-Eyed Sonny's in there and Rough and Tough, and a lot of good blankets and leopards and few spots, and yeah. So you inspired me to make that post. So because I knew you were gonna talk about him. So
yeah, and what a cool. I know like. Jess said she bought him and was not looking for a horse, but, you know, couldn't pass it up. And what a great horse to have walked into their lives and to still be able to see, you know, he's 15 and he was placing this year, you know, in senior with a 10-year-old, you know,
right.
Which is so, you know, in their first year together. So
the future looks bright there.
Exactly.
For sure. And I believe that's the girl that's riding him is the baby in this picture, right? I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. The little baby in the picture is the girl that's now riding him. So
yeah.
Super cool story there, and really cool, and such a great way to kind of showcase him as a horse, I think.
Right. Yeah, because she rode Doc's Chocolate Delight. Well, she still does too. Yeah, and Batman or whatever. And Batman, and he's little, you know, but he's a cool POA too. And then this guy's a little bigger, you know, and of course he goes back to Impulse breeding too. So all that's his name, Impulsive Superman. But he goes through the quarter horse. His dam was related to the Sudden Impulse. So or a Sudden Impulse, I guess. So. All right. Anything else? You did a lot of research. Did you do any research on my 3 picks?
No, not as much as I did on my 3 picks. I was trying to be a good, knowledgeable co-host here.
You are. You're a good co-host. You're good. You're going to be on again. I might have you on the Stallion edition because that's always tough. You don't have to. You'll be in school, then. Well, actually, you'll be on Christmas break because I usually do that right before Christmas. But That's a sponsored one, and I try to get stallions on there. I might have to do it a couple nights because I talk so much for 3 to 5 minutes on each one that I almost go hoarse. And then the one year I had my wife in here, the second year I did it, I think, timing me, and that didn't turn out too well. She did a good job, but I was felt under pressure because she was giving me hand signals. Here, I'll put my face on here. She was giving me like the one, and then like this, wrap it up, and I'm looking at the paper. I still got horses to mention. So, yeah, it was kind of funny. So.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything else to add to my 3.
Well,
yeah, it was hard to find some without the impulse connection. And, it's a good problem to have.
That's a good problem to have, yeah. Well, there's been stallions, and maybe Manny will do that. He's still young, but Jess has a big program in the pony farm there that he may become one of those stallions. He definitely has as a winner already. He's won a lot of classes as a stallion, but as a sire, he may be up there, and then he's has sons already that are going to sire, and probably grandsons that are going to sire. So he may become one of these double toughs, kiddo tough, first impulse. So studs like that really made their mark on the breed. So.
Okay.
All right. Well, I have, I think you can see it up there. I have Double Tough. This is from 1975. This would have been the first year he showed at a international show, which is now the Congress. Look at those old motorhomes back there, those flat nose or stub nose motorhomes. Them are Winnebagos, I'm pretty sure. Those things probably got 4 miles to the gallon. So, yep, this was a long time ago. Professional photographer Alan Potter took this, like I said, in 75. This horse was discovered by an Iowa family, and then he was from Kansas. And Doc Nemers, ended up buying him eventually, and then had him when he passed away. And he went and traced his parentage down and found his sire and dam in Kansas. He didn't buy him or anything, but he said his dam was colored something like him, and about 54 inches, and his dad, I forget how tall he said he was, but he was a registered Appaloosa, his dad, and the dam was just a pony Appaloosa, which that was a POA basically, but she wasn't bred to be a POA. So, and then how he got so famous, Max Nebergall was, he would buy and sell stuff, and he's actually related to 2 of these. He's related to Black Swan S too, because he owned her. He got her from South Dakota, but he put his prefix on him, East Acres, and then he won in 75, 6, 7, and 8, which was unheard of back then. And even today, the mare now, Opal, JBJ's Kedazzle just won her 4th one. And there's been a few geldings that have won 4 or 5, but a stallion to do it 4 years in a row, may never happen again. And
no, absolutely.
Right. So that was him there. And then there he is again in 75, a different angle, black and white. This was off the cover, I believe. And then this is off the sale cover in 76. He won, and I think it was in Illinois that year. He had such a long neck. Now, all 3 of my picks, not knocking them or anything, but they don't have the little bitty classic heads that I like, but they all, they were just so modern POAs. They were that small horse look, and he had that long neck, and he changed POAs completely. Double Tough did. It went from the stock pony to the small horse after him. And then not only did he do that, people went and found horses like Gold Prince and all kinds of horses and put them into POAs. I'm getting a little feedback from probably your volume.
Oh, okay.
There he is from 77 when he won Grand, and then there he is the last year he won Grand, and they didn't show him in 79. He was never defeated at a national show. He was defeated at state shows and stuff in halter, but he showed at the World Show in 79. I didn't include that picture, but I think this picture was taken in 80 out in Sioux Falls at a regional, and it's one of the best. He would have been 10 years old in that picture, and that picture's distorted a little bit because it's been copied and stuff. It's not the original, so his shoulder looks a little off there and his neck, but his neck was actually longer and skinnier than that picture shows. But
hey, you said I liked Chrome, but you've got some pretty good looking Chrome down there.
Well, I love Chrome too. It's hard to, just like Millsap, you better be doing good when you're riding one colored like that, because the judge is going to take notice. So Yeah, and this guy, if you can imagine, in the '70s, that was way ahead of his time. You know, and yeah, he
Yeah.
had chrome, and then of course what hurt him. I mean, he became one of the best sires of all time, but he couldn't breed horse mares like now. Today they would breed. You know, they're breeding to Chocolatey and stuff, and they're breeding to
Yeah.
own daughters of this and that. You know, and
Mhm.
he couldn't do that. He had to breed pony mares. In fact, Doc went and found some just grade ponies that he was breeding him to, and some of them got too big and stuff. The limit was 54. That's what was hurting him.
Yeah.
If it would have been 56, he died 4 years before the limit was changed. So
Okay.
we got to keep that in mind too. And then,
Mhm.
you know, they considered him a horse, but his mom actually was a pony. So that's why, you know, his muscles maybe wasn't quite as big as a full horse. His croup maybe wasn't quite as big, but you know, he wasn't he wasn't hardship like some horses are nowadays that were actually registered Appaloosas. He never was that. So another
Yeah.
cool thing about him is he won Get a Sire 5 years in a row, and then again they just stopped when he died. They never showed his Get. Of course, they had his son Doc's Tough Dude, and Built Tough was coming around. And I know your mom would remember him. He showed for years as a gelding.
Mhm.
Doc's Built Tough, and he had all kinds of sons that won. He had several sons win grand, and then when the Select Sire Futurity, which is still, you know, that Futurity still going, his fillies won the first two, and he passed away a month after the first one. But then the second show in '83, and he was already deceased. His baby won it again. So the first two Futurities, he was the sire of the Select Sire Futurity. So that helped
Yeah.
seal his legend also. So,
Yeah, he's definitely a very impressive sire, and I mean not just in the way he's built, but obviously his offspring, and then still today. I mean, there's so many that you can go back to him, and
right, for sure.
yeah,
For
that
sure.
was a
And
good.
I could talk a long time about him. You know, our program consists, we had Doc's Double Sweet was an own daughter of his, and then she ended up being the mother to the Crisco Kid, who won 60 classes at the international show.
Mhm.
And then his full sister, the Crisco Kid's full sister, became the mother of the Silver Kid, who's the lead.
Yeah.
Plus, she's the mother of other ones too, like He's Intensified and
Mhm.
several other, I think, Supremes. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, I've had a show. I think episode 10. This is episode 90. Episode 10 was about East Acres Double Tough. So if you guys want to
Yeah.
go back on the POA history, it should still be archived on there. So moving on is one of my favorite mares all time. Of course, I got to watch her. I grew up watching this girl grow up and this mare grow up. So she was a yearling when they bought her at the international sale, and from the same guy that had hardshipped Double Tough. So, and that's of course Black Swan S, and that's Danielle Kruger as a young girl there, and she still has POAs in EOTA, and of course her sisters rode. She was the youngest of a group there that all showed and did well, and they all went to River Falls and became horse people, and they still are. So that's cool. But this mare is just, again, this picture doesn't do her justice. The hip doesn't quite look right, and the neck, it was a little thinner than this picture. Nothing against Casey Montgomery, you know, one of the best horse photographers ever. But when you see him and knew him in person, you know, your eye captures a better picture than any lens ever will. So you probably know that already, Katie, that, you know, when you look at it with your mind's eye, you see the true horse. And, you know, it's just when you see it like this, it just, but that's still an impressive picture. You know, you can tell why she was the grand champion mare that day. And this mare had huge forearms. But again, you know, halter only goes so far. It's just like in people, you know, we all change as we get older, and you only halter so long. But this mare did it all. And of course, her and Danielle were, everybody talks about one of the best teams ever in history. It was these two.
Yeah, she was I remember I was asking my mom about, you know, some older ones, and this was definitely one she thought of, and as soon as you said you picked her, she was very excited.
Oh, good. Well, she would be about that age. I think her and Danielle are close to the same age. They're a couple years younger than me is all. And
all I ever heard was they were just in a league of their own. There was nobody even close.
Right. Well, I went to a judging competition in Rochester, Minnesota one time, a high school judging competition, and this mare was there, and they put 4 for the judging, and she was one of the 4 POAs. Well, the other 3 POAs weren't even close to her.
Yeah.
And this would have been about 88 or 89, so she was still pretty much in her prime. She's an 82, so she was 7 or 8 years old, and I knew her. I'm looking around like I was cheating. I'm like, this isn't fair, because I know who this is. But you could tell, and I put her first, and I don't know how many people did, but
that would have been the best judging contest to show up to.
Yeah.
Mine were that simple and easy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they ran some Percherons in on us that time, and they told us to judge them like halter horses. And then the judge come out and said, well, he lied to you. You should have judged them as hitch horses. That's how I judged them. You should have judged the action in their legs. And I'm like, and I bombed the draft horses. And I grew up around draft horses, but so I didn't score very well. I'm like, well, Black Swan S didn't help me that much. And my ringer and halter ended up, I didn't place in the top 3 that show, or that contest. I think that was one of her last years, 93. I think that was her final year in POAs as a youth rider. And of course, Black Swan S went on to have some good foals too. And of course, her one daughter by Kiddo Tough. Black Swan's name was Velvet. That was her. Because some people, I noticed Janelle Burton went on there and said Velveeta, and but Velvet was her nickname, and Touch of Velvet is her daughter by Kiddo Tough. And of course, the Kruger family bred the Kiddo, and then they ended up buying him with Jackie Guthrie and partners, and then they had him. And then my brother and I bought him back from Kruger's, and that I'm a little biased, but to me that was her best foal. Danielle won all 3 2-year-old classes with her, plus 2-year-old fillies when she was a 2-year-old. She's a red mare with a big blanket, so not a very big mare, but. Of course, Black Swan wasn't that tall either, because she was, born in 82. So her dad was a South Dakota quarter horse, kind of a real ranch type horse. And then her mom was just a little old black POA mare, Peacock breeding. Peacock was an early POA. There's the famous Ruth Pecoy holding the Elroy Latch Memorial Award. Your grandparents and Mom know about that award for sure. That was an Iowa breeder.
They stopped the Elroy Latch my last year in 10 to 13, so I never got to win it. But
you would have. I bet you would have, especially now. You have some well-mounted horses, some good ponies. So, and there she is, the Ultimate Pony Award they did in '93. And man, we lost some of these cool awards. But she won the use of that trailer, and
just another POA, I think, that showcases that whole kind of what I said with my 3, with the ring presence, and you can see that through all these photos of her. I mean, you don't even need to watch video. She was special.
Right. And when she would turn a barrel too, which Danielle runs barrels now on horses. She has a couple POAs she rides, and quarter horses and stuff too. But they were. It helps, just like you're a great rider, but you have great POAs, too. But you need them both to go to that next level, like you did and like she did, like Danielle did. You can't do it all by yourself. If you're on a weedy horse, you're not. Doesn't matter how much you train or work hard, you're not going to get there. And same way with the horse. The horse can be the best one there, but if you don't have the right partner, so.
Yeah, very well said.
Thanks. All right, well, let's move on to one that your mom said she was going to tell you to pick. So, and I'm glad you picked the modern ones, though. And we didn't even plan that, did we, Katie? We just, I figured you'd pick, more modern ones. And I decided I better not, because somebody might say, well, boy, you're going judging these horses. And, now so I got to find him. There he is. So I have some cool stories about this horse, and I don't know, all his life history. I know he was born in Arizona on a huge ranch. Paula Cooper Corson was, if you read my book, not a shameless plug, but she had Siri Chief, the second registered POA ever. She got him from Oregon, brought him back down to Arizona, and then raised a bunch of POAs and Appaloosas both. So this guy's dad was an Appaloosa and his mother was a POA, and that's why that adds to some of his body. And he has some famous half siblings like Siri Wonder, Siri's Silver Prince, and Siri's Brushfire, which the Pony Farm had in Iowa. Jess's family there had him. So they, he had some very good siblings that way. And then, but he was just, he looked like a horse. In fact, Susie, who's watching tonight, Susie Schultz, Susie Huff now from Edina, Minnesota, she said she thought he was a horse. She thought he was hardship because he came out of nowhere. Well, he was running on that big ranch, and that family from Colorado went and picked him out. And Diana Peaton and I talked about him a little bit at the convention because she's an Arizona girl, grew up in Arizona with POAs. And yeah, she had horses running all over the place, Appaloosas and POAs. But let me show some colored pictures of him here. So did your mom tell you a little bit about him?
Yeah, I remember when you first texted me, she was like, "Oh, you got to choose Series Sparkle Champagne." Like that was the very first horse that came to mind. She was like, he could just do it all. And, kind of another one of those in their own league. There's just not anyone to touch them.
Right.
So
definitely, especially in halter. But then again, so all of them we kind of picked tonight, all can hold their own in halter, and then and some more than others. Several of them were grand champions that we picked. So all three of mine were grand champions, but they also won. Double Tough, not so much Congress or international wise, but he won state shows and stuff with the Nemers kids. But this guy here, he went on to do, there he is in English and Pleasure, and he was fast. Everybody I've talked to said he was so fast. So he was in Colorado. I might butcher their name, but Niswangers, I believe. Vonda was the one that rode him, I think, the most. And Lynn was the guy showing him her dad, L-E-N, Lynn. And I told the story before, probably a year or two ago on here. My dad and I got to Oklahoma City. You could get in about midnight back then at the show, at the international show, and it was in 1986. I think your mom was there showing Dragon's Talon. And anyway, we walked around. Back then they didn't have them all covered up as much, and you could kind of see them, and people didn't care that much if you walked up to the stalls. I mean, you didn't open the stalls, but he wasn't in his stall, and I told Dad, I want to see Series Sparkle Champagne. He's like, well, you'll see him tomorrow, or 2 days from now or whatever when the show starts. But anyway, a trailer pulls in from Colorado, and this guy that I never talked to, and I didn't even that night, he gets out and unloads this big, he wasn't tall, but big Palomino, and it's this horse here, Series Sparkle Champagne. And he set him up for me right on the concrete, and I just kind of walked around him, and that's a memory. I was 14 years old, and he was probably, that horse was, I don't know, in single digits then, probably 8 or 9. I forget what year he was born. But that's a memory I have. There he is going around a barrel. So after Colorado, he went to Ohio, and Stephanie Essman had him, and this is her. She was on the cover with him, all three of these pictures. And then, of course, he went down to... I'm not going to mess it up. Do you know who had him at the end? It was Lauren. Lauren Chambers is their name now, but her family had him down south. And they, of course, they were well mounted on horses. They had a bunch of great POAs like KS's Bandita Breeze, was that a mare. And then I believe he went back to Colorado. So I contacted a couple people, and this girl here, I contact Facebook. You can be a really good detective now, but I think of it too late. I should have did it a month ago, but I contacted her, and she wasn't at her home. She's got a home in some Wyoming or Colorado and one in San Diego, and she said all her pictures were back in San Diego.
Yeah.
And then I contacted Vonda. I found her because, of course, the names are different, the last name. So if you ever get married, Katie, do a hyphen. Do Katie Meyer, whatever you're gonna be. No, I'm kidding. But anyway, I found Vonda, and she wrote me back right away. And same way, she was on vacation. And I said, well, do you have any on your phone? And she goes, no, I have hard copies at home. And of course I didn't tell them, well, I need it tomorrow. I need them tomorrow night. So, but anyway, there may be more pictures to come on the POA history page and stuff of him. So I do have, go ahead.
And I know, like we talked about it with Flo too, but another horse that could just do it all and do it all so well, you never get, not necessarily getting hot or, really excited and can do it all so well, which is an impressive thing that takes a special mind in a a special horse to be able to do.
Lauren said if he would walk into a class where he was a pattern class where he was the only one, because he would know if he was the only one in there, it was time to go. So she said if he walked in and didn't run right away, she could hardly be beat. He could hardly be beat in like patterns because he would just sit down and do it. But sometimes he would think, it's time to go now, because there's no other horses here. But if there was horses with him, she said he knew what to do, that it was pleasure or English, So I do have a couple more pictures of him, I believe. Let's see. I put one on the cover. Bear with me. I got some trucks and some. Here's a picture of her and him. And then the woman standing there, the young lady standing there, is Vonda. That was his first rider, I believe. And then that was one of his last youth showers. Is Lauren. So look at that headset for how built he was, and his dad was a Appaloosa. Of course, he had some famous siblings that had really tiny heads, but that was because of the pony breeding on the bottom side too. But yep, one of my favorites for sure. And I'm not even a yellow guy, you know what I mean? I don't like palominos as much. I mean, I like buckskins, and I like a good palomino too. I like a horse is good any color, So there's an old saying, your grandparents would know this, your mom might even know this. You're going to really impress me if you heard of this. But old horse timers would say the best color on a horse is fat. The prettiest color on a horse is fat. Because, back in the day, if they didn't have them real fat, they didn't look good, I'm talking about horse traders and stuff. And so, best color. Oh, there's a pink Jeep. So
I don't know. I'm not a real big fan of super, super loud leopards.
But you picked a loud leopard. Yeah, you picked because he's a great horse, right?
Yeah. No, he's not loud. He's got little spots.
Well, he's not that loud. Yeah, you don't like the really big spotted. Yeah, you don't like the huge.
And he's
spotted.
got such a kind eye.
He does. Yeah, that's why I kept that one picture of him on there so long with the garland of flowers around his neck, because it looks so good. Most of them we picked tonight have really nice, kind eyes, and they're all pretty horses. So
when I was going to buy my first POA, I was 7 years old, and I just wanted to buy the first pony I found. And my mom always said, she's like, we're not buying that one. It doesn't have the right eye. And she always just said it was an instinct. The good ones have the eye. They have the look.
Right. Tracy's got to agree with you, because she disagrees with me on about everything. But she goes, "Man, he's not loud." Well, he is a dang leopard, so I mean, he's louder than a roan. He's louder than a blue roan. So I still call it loud. Who wins the most colorful classes? Usually it's a leopard. And when I judge most colorful, I like the blankets with the socks. You know what I mean? So yeah, and little spotted leopards can be really loud too. So. But we had a big spotted leopard, Chippetuff. He's actually in Manny. He's Kiddo Tuff's dad. His picture's on there now. He had those big spots because he was kind of muddy the first time we seen him, and Max dipped his hand in the water trough and rubbed the spots off on his butt, the dirt off his spots. And he was so fat, the water just beat it up on his hip. But anyway, he said he's the only POA in history that has his date of birth on his hip. And his spots looked like a 7 and a 7 on both hips. His hips were so good.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and he was born in 1977. But Max was a trader. He actually traded a grandfather clock for East Acres Double Tough. Max Nebergall, because he traded in antiques, and he ended up selling a bunch of Belgian draft horses, buying and selling, and then he became pretty famous in miniature horses. He had a East Acres Golden Jubilee, became a famous miniature, just like East Acres Double Tough did. He's one of their founder. Yeah. So, anyway, that's that. So it was kind of cool that your mom knew all those that I picked, especially Black Swan and Series Sparkle Champion. Yeah. When she said that, she said, I told Katie to pick him, and I said, well, I'm going to kind of pick him. And I said, I bet she picks more modern ones. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I tend to pick modern horses that are still in it, but kind of, at the end of their prime a little bit, a little older, nice big show records.
Right. That's fine. That's all right. Yeah.
So.
Well, we'll have to do this again someday on the next generation. So and then I can pick some of these that, you know, are not showing anymore that showed kind of when you were showing. And then I don't know if I'll be doing the podcast in 10 years from now, though. That's a lot of podcasts. So maybe if I limit it to a few a year. So did you have fun?
Goodness.
Did you have fun tonight, Katie?
I absolutely did.
Okay.
I was not expecting a call back so quick, but I was excited when I got it.
Well, I wasn't
and then
going to call you that quick either, but
I was getting so stressed out because how do you pick? I mean, there's just so many. And yeah, how do you pick?
Well, as soon as I got my phone in my hand here to show people, as soon as I'm going to put my picture on here, as soon as I hit send, I'm like, what did I do? Why did I ask her to do that? Because she may not want to pick, you know, she don't want to offend anybody. And then I'm like, well, if we present it right, people will know, you know, we can't put our 20 favorites on here. Nope. We'll be on here for a week, you know. So just like, I have a lot of other favorites besides those three. And then, of course, you know, Oz's Sweet Speculation's one of my favorite mares, but my family owned her. And then Kiddo Tough, I watched him be born, and we raised him. I named him, and so you know, I have favorites too that we raised.
Yeah, and I had wanted to choose Lexus for a mare, but yeah, I can't really choose her.
Right. She's a great one, that's for sure. Yeah, people need to know the rules that I told her. I told Katie, I said, you can't pick, because that's funny. You come on here and you said that right away. I picked this one, and this one, and then you read it a little closer and said, oh, not related to you. So yeah. I've been thinking about doing this for a while, a couple years. I thought about having like a panel, but then it's hard if you get 3 or 4 people on here and, you know, to talk about things. So when I had to come up with a quick episode, I'm like, I bet Katie will bail me out, and she was such a good guest, and I got a lot of good reviews about your show last time. So you know, a guest that can make or break a podcast, and I've really never had one break one, I don't think so, but I think that one you were on has like 2,000 or 2,300 views, the one you and Janelle were on. So this one,
that was a good one.
That was a good one. This one will probably get close to 2,000 plays. So maybe your grandma and grandpa watch it 10 or tell them to watch it 10 or 20 times over and over. That helps me. So.
Yeah, it was good though that she said mare, gelding, and stud. Otherwise, I would have been real lost.
Right. Well, I figured that would make it easy to break it up into 3 categories, you know. And then that
I
way.
tried to have some similar criteria, and
right.
But I think all the great ones have such similar attributes. You know.
Right. And I didn't pick these because they were so famous. Like, you know, Suncrest Uncle Sam's famous, and I liked him. And Rutledge's Yoka Chiggerpep, he was very famous, you know. And of course, he was a good gelding, and he haltered too because of his neck. And there's a lot of great geldings, you know, over the years, and of course still are. And that gelding class this year, whew, you know, it was a tough class. And the large gelding class, all of them. We talked about that earlier, how good Congress was. You know, this year it wasn't as big as some of them. The last couple of years hasn't been, but the quality is just there. You know, especially in the young ones, the yearling fillies, and then the age mares and the age geldings. Wow, there's a lot of
it was impressive.
Yeah,
it's Suncrest Uncle Sam. I actually even know that one. He's real famous.
Yeah, he's been on the cover probably as much as any horse. He was on the cover with probably 5 different riders. So the Sparks family had him out in California, and several girls and a boy rode him. And and then he was in Arizona with Kent Taylor or Tyler, and he's a big blanketed. Of course, he made his breeder pretty famous too, Suncrest, and then he was one of her first superstars. And just like Siri Champagne here, Siri Silver Champagne, he was one of her first, you know, Sparkle Champagne. I mean, Siri's Silver Prince got famous as a sire, but he wasn't that famous as a. And there was a lot of Siri stallions. At one time, there was probably 15 or 20 Siri stallions standing. You know, I'm talking in the 60s and the 70s. Because you got to remember, the breeder of this horse here that now we're looking at on the screen, she registered the second POA ever. You know, so, and then she was still breeding in the 80s. I think she passed away in the late 80s, Paula did. So Siri Eclipse actually ended up at the Pony Farm. And he was one of her last really good POAs, Siri Eclipse was. So, well bred. All right, Katie, well, Get ready for Christmas time. I might have you on a video then. I'll have to pay you to do that one because I actually get
Oh my
paid.
goodness.
So maybe I'll have to pay you. Well, I don't want to wreck your college though. So you're still an amateur. So
I was gonna say I gotta stay non-pro. I wanna
yeah, you
go
got to
in
stay
non-pro when I
non-pro.
go.
So maybe I'll just send you a Starbucks gift card or something. I don't know. So that's if you do that one in December. That one is a crazy. You can go back and look. Leo and Leanne, your grandma and grandpa, put a lasting impulse in the first year that I did it. So yeah, and we have quite a few stallions from around the country. Some I didn't even know very well, and we have some from Canada. Every year we have 2 or 3 come in from Canada.
Oh my
So
goodness.
it's a cool episode.
Yeah.
So but this year I'm going to break it up into two episodes. I think I'm going to do it on like a Tuesday and a Wednesday. So we'll see. Your phone may be ringing. Of course, it might ring before that. This is only August. So
No kidding.
are you going to Gordyville?
Well, I'd love to, but obviously I can't, chill,
Right.
which kind of throws a little wrench in there. But last year we drove up just to watch,
Okay.
and I wish I could. That would be. I just want to show at the maturity. It's the only reason I want to get old and graduate out of youth. So I don't know. We'll have to see this year.
You got to raise a baby. You got to take one of those babies from your grandparents and show it.
Mm-hmm. I don't do weanlings, though. Those things stay in the barn until they're yearlings.
Probably a good idea. Weanlings are tough to show. That's what I did a lot. I showed a lot of weanlings because I didn't ride, and they can be the greatest. What would happen is the ones that would be kind of nervous at home and wouldn't stand, they would get nervous at the show and just kind of stand there. And then the ones that were so trained at home, it seemed like they would walk around on me and stuff. They were smart and they would just kind of want to go play. And I never had concrete either at my place. We didn't have any concrete. So when I would bring those babies like to Des Moines and they'd have to walk on all those sidewalks, they'd look like a Pasofino. I'm like, they're really pleasure bred. They're slow legged, but they'd see that new cement to them new, and they'd just go kind of crazy.
Especially with how long you have to stand. Like, goodness gracious, there's a lot of babies out there.
I think the biggest class I ever showed in was like 54 colts back in the day, and my colt actually fell asleep, and he did. I had to keep popping him in the nose, in the muzzle, really light, but because the guy that owned the sire of him walked up to me and he's like, he's sleeping. He was kind of mad that I let him fall asleep. I'm like, there's 54 in here. It's going to be a half an hour before a judge looks at him, even with 3 judges.
Yeah.
So.
You know what? I showed a 3-year-old gelding at halter, and that's as close to a baby as I want to get.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I like showing yearlings too, but you never know. Yearlings can be a challenge too. So.
No kidding. Yeah. Well, I'll be ready for my call.
You'll be ready for your call. Well, good. Well, Thank you for bailing me out. You were a great co-host, and I'm glad you picked 3 really nice POAs. So you did a good job. All right.
You.
Say hi to your family for me.
Bye.
Okay. Bye, Katie. All right. That was Katie Meyer from Iowa. She's been on the show twice now in like 3 weeks. So I think she'll be coming back again as a guest. So we are going to have the Stallion show. I don't know if she'll be interested in doing that. She'll be on probably Christmas break when we do that. But we are going to do a Stallion episode again this coming year. So start thinking about that. I seen Jordan today was posting her 2 stallions, and she's been on there every year with her 2. And a lot of other people have too, Tracy and Gardner's and a lot of people. I don't want to forget anybody, but that's always a fun episode. I usually don a Santa hat, and it gets pretty hot in here, but I still do that because it's around Christmas. This last year I wasn't going to do one, and I was asked by several people to do it, so I did it in January, which is still pretty early. But this year we are going to it'll be the final episode of this year. Speaking of that, this was episode 90, so kind of a milestone, and this has been our second biggest year. 21, we had 30 episodes, and then 20 in 22, we fell down to 16 and 23. And then this year, you do the math if you're following at home, but it's already over 20. So again, it's the second. So it should be the most episodes of a year, unless for some reason I stop doing episodes. But There's a lot behind the scenes and stuff that goes on sometimes that people don't realize. Like this week I had one planned and it just didn't work out for different reasons. So I texted Katie and said, hey, I got an idea. You want to pick 3 favorite POAs? I know it'll be hard to do that, but just 3 you really like or admire. And then I put on there they can't be related to your stuff, which I kidded her. I said you cheated because 2 of them were related to First Impulse, but still a long way away from, like, she never showed them or anything. So, and then I picked 3 from when I was a kid, basically. So 3 of them that I admire. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. A lot of good comments tonight, a lot of viewers. Since Meta did their thing, Facebook, Meta, whatever you call it, and you can't do it from a private group anymore, we actually get way more plays now because most of the people that were members of POA History Group are also friends of mine too. Not all of them are, but a lot of them are. And then I have other people too. And then I can share it from my own Facebook page. So now I'll share it to the POA Breeders Group, POA owners, POA enthusiasts, and the POA alumni. So I always share these to 4 groups, just like a lot of my posts. I post it on my own page, and then my personal page, and then I share it to those 4 groups. So that's helped a lot. And like I say, we got down as far as like 300-400 views per episode till now we're well over 1,000 every episode, and some of them have been over 2,000. So that's fun when you do this and people actually play them and watch them. So tell your friends if they don't know about this to tune in, the POA alumni and people that grew up in POA and stuff. Tell them to, and newer people into POAs, if they haven't heard of my POA podcast, Black Hand and Beyond, tell them to tune in. All right, everybody. Next week we have another youth, she's just starting to end her youth career in POAs, and that's Kelly Despain from Oklahoma, Edmond, Oklahoma. She'll be our guest next week. So that'll be a cool episode. We'll get to talk about some of the POAs that she grew up riding and some of them that she rode her last year here, and then some of the other activities and what she's going to do in the future and stuff. So another cool episode, I'm sure. And then I think I got to take a week off because I have quite a few fairs coming up that I'm judging, and then I'm going to do the Murfeld episode, and I might have a special guest or 2 for that one as well. They were the 9th member of POAC. So also remember, quick plug, I am selling the Leading Sires and the Breeders List as a package, or you can buy them a la carte. So it's $30 for the whole package. I had a few people take advantage of it, not nearly as many that I think should. A lot of people ask for those all the time, and now that I redid them and have them available, I didn't get that many requests, but I understand $30 is $30. But just contact me when you can, and I can digitally, I send them email, or I can print them off and either bring them to Gordyville or send them to you. All right, everybody, thank you for watching. Enjoy the song, everyone. See you next week.